Hello, and welcome to the Solutionist Show on All About Animals Radio. I'm your host, Billy Groom. Today's guest is Erica Salvemini, whom I've known for a couple of years, and we instantly connected for a number of reasons, of which one is our shared experiences being a social entrepreneur, which is also termed a conscious entrepreneur or a passionpreneur. These roles and professions have become increasingly popular and impactful in animal welfare. Erica has been in the industry for nearly 2 decades as a compassionate companion animal care provider. Specifically, Erica is a master Reiki practitioner and is the founder of Just for Paws Spa and Academy, a holistic health and wellness practice. And we're going to talk about her success and challenges in this business and how she has impacted animal welfare. She's the host of the Rising Lioness podcast, which is also on All About Animals Radio, so you should check that out. And she's dedicated to being the voice not only for the animals, but for providing a platform for those deserved of recognition in animal welfare. Erica was featured on the Today Show in 2009, and she co-hosted the pilot series Animal House in 2015. Her journey from software marketing director into compassionate companion animal care is full of interesting and useful information. And not only for social entrepreneurs, but for those that are interested in learning more about the animal welfare spectrum in general. So let's hear from Erica. Welcome, Erica.
Hi, Billy. How are you?
I'm great. How are you?
I'm really great. Thank you so much for having me on today. This is
Oh, this is so cool.
always fun. Yeah.
It is always fun, and we just have so much to cover. So I think I'd like to start with just maybe you can just share with us your journey and where it started and how it how you gravitated to that side of compassionate pet care, that energy wellness.
Sure. Well, thanks for having me on and asking. I'd love to share the information with you. So I'd have to say, like many animal lovers, animal advocates, it started from the time for as long back as I can remember, childhood. I
Right.
have always loved animals. I remember being stuck at home during a snowstorm. I couldn't have been older than 6 years old, and I went downstairs and rescued what looked like a hurt pigeon in a pile of snow during a blizzard. Brought him inside, put him in a box, and eventually passed away. But like those
Yeah.
are the kinds of things I used to do. I was holding Greenpeace bake sales for Greenpeace, and I fought in front of my house at 8 years old. And I got my love of animals from my mom, which is really nice. I got the best of both of my parents, which is nice because I probably would have been better raised by, wolves or something. Because, dysfunctional households and all that back in the 70s, anything went.
Yep.
But, wacky upbringing, but had a real love for animals always. And so you fast forward a lot of years. My background was in marketing. I worked for a software marketing company, and it was great. I loved the work, but you get to a point where, like many of us, you start to do some soul searching. I wanted to have a better connection with my higher self and who I was and what I was meant to do. And I always went back to the animals. I always wanted to give back to them. Frankly, they brought me a lot of peace and happiness in my life growing up in childhood and got me through a lot of stuff. We'll just leave it at that. And
Mhm.
so I was like, well, what can I do? How can I make money? Also do what I love. And I started to do some research. I wasn't going to go back to school for a long period of time to become a vet. I was in my early 30s. And so I decided to, after about a year's worth of soul searching on it, I ditched the corporate rat race and I decided to learn how to become a groomer and
Mm.
so building a business at the same time. Because I had the business and marketing background, I was really excited to do all of that. I realized right away I was good with my hands, I could be creative, and I would be good at this work. And so I started out mobile grooming, doing high end like house calls, and eventually opened up a pet spa in northern New Jersey. And so you fast forward a little bit, and over the years, people started to, you know, you hear the same stuff over and over again about animals and the help that's needed, and how much. I didn't go into it thinking or knowing any of that. I didn't even know grooming existed. I always had, we went to the local shelter and got dogs or cats when we wanted a pet, and companion animal. They weren't called companion animals then either. It was always pets. And so at the same time, this was like back in 2004, I made this switch over. I also was, it was like a spiritual kind of thing happening for me. I wanted, this massive shift happened in my life. I started to work with animals, but I also started to delve into alternative healing modalities. And I started to learn about crystal healing, Reiki, which is energy wellness. I started to do some studying and took some courses, weekend getaways for shamanic healing. And that all eventually, it just became innately weaved into the animal care just by the nature of me doing it. So that's kind of how it all began for me, really.
Yeah, I can relate to that, where it's for me, I mean, I can't even groom my own hair. That's not the direction. I went the behavioral side because of my, like, for just more of the psychology driven side and the
Right.
behavior. But the idea is just really similar, where I think a lot of social entrepreneurs, somewhere there's that connection between, you said earlier about making money and business, but then what does that really mean? I mean,
Right.
yes, we're making money, but a lot of people see it as just a bit, oh, you're just a groomer, or but the impact on animal welfare. And, I was in rescue specific. I've had hundreds and hundreds of dogs through my home in rescue, but I almost feel as though I'm helping more animals and people by having a profession in the industry that helps people help their dog,
Right.
hence social entrepreneur. So it's an interesting journey to get your head around that. And I think you and I have had this conversation where it's almost getting your head around where that all meshes with profession and animal welfare and social entrepreneur. And so I think what happens is that we see that there's challenges with these animals. They're neglected, they're exploited, and we want to say, how can we take what we do professionally and make a difference on that? We can't necessarily address the whole entire scope, but where do we fit in?
To make a difference.
Yes.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yes. And so
Uh,
can you tell us, when you talk about neglect and exploitation, some people might think that the dogs you work with are pampered pets.
yes. And, it's interesting because to imply that they're pampered because their parents, their human guardians care about them enough to bring them to a place where they're guaranteed to be comforted and loved and cherished and respected the same way they are at home. So when they go to the grooming shop, or, yes, I call my place a pet spa, but at the basis of it, it's, we're giving haircuts, we're bathing and drying them. Do we offer a lot more than that? Yes. We offer spa treatments and facials and moisturizers, balms for their pads. And so, there's a lot of extras, bells and whistles that people like to bestow these extra, little touches of love to their babies, but they're doing it because at the end of the day, they love them and they want to offer them comfort. And
Comfort.
so, right. And
Yeah.
so they want to know that when they're bringing them somewhere, that's actually what's happening. And so this journey has taught me a lot. I started to mention it before, but I didn't know the inherent problems in this industry, which, as we both know, animal care and a lot of the animal services industries, it's unregulated. And most people don't know that, and they don't know what that means. And so for me, for what I did in my business, over a period of time, I realized, in order to keep the pets safe, happy, comfortable, I started to create some methodologies that were proprietary for my business. Certain things like, color coding the animals within our software system. I discovered just by way of talking to one of my son's therapists one day, when he was, young. He was my adopted son. I have two boys. One's adopted. He's an amazing child. He inspires me every day to do better and be a better human being. Both of my kids do, but my one son had some emotional trouble, and therapy helped a lot. And so they give you these charts with these little faces on them for these little children, and they're color coded. And so it starts at the bottom with a little green, green happy face, a smile, so that he can put an emotion to the face. And so it goes all the way up to red, where his head's blowing off and it's on fire because he's that's anger, right? So I was like, I had like a lightning bolt moment. I was like, oh my God, that's brilliant. I can color code the animals in the same way. So the pets that come in and they're perfectly, well adjusted, no issues, no problems. They've had a wonderful life, and God bless that they can come in and they can just stand, get a bath, get a blowout, get a haircut, and there's no issue. But then, that's not the case for most, because grooming in general is, can be unsettling. They're coming into a place where they don't know anyone. And most people that work in these facilities, they just grab the pet, they take them to the bath, they, just throw some water in their face. They don't care if the blow dryer is hitting them in their face. And they're struggling with all that. And who wouldn't, right? I wouldn't like any of that either. But for the pets who have backgrounds that we don't know anything about, PTSD, they were adopted, they were found tied to a tree, they came from a hoarding situation, they were abused, they had a bad experience at a grooming shop. We get all of those clients. And because of the nature of my business specifically, which is a niche business, because I do offer wellness energy, and it, again, it didn't start out this way. It's just by the nature of who I am and the way I instilled my own beliefs and my own philosophies in life for myself, for my family. I built the business this way. And so people just kept coming. That's the thing about, a soul mission, right? SOUL for businesses. If you create a soul mission for your business, you don't have to have profits at the top, because it's just going to come. If you're leading with your heart, it's just going to come. And so I have, going back to, what did I do? I created some methodologies like color coding, like creating accommodations for special pets who have unique needs, have special requirements. Like, we get older, sickly pets who can't stand on their own. They're, big, older shepherds, their hips are gone, so they need an extra pair of hands, somebody to help hold them up lovingly while petting them and telling them what a good boy or girl they are while the groomer is doing the grooming. Places don't accommodate for things like that. These companion animal services, you're not typically going to find that. And so those are the kinds of things that I realized, what, if my animals were going somewhere, just like if my kids were going to a childcare facility, I want to make sure that their needs are met. And if they've got special needs, well, then I am definitely going to make sure that they can accommodate what my kids need, whether it's my four-legged, two-legged, whatever the case may be. And the energy work just kind of plays into all of that, because we communicate with animals that way. And
it all connects. Absolutely, it connects. And I like to recommend with my clients who have the behavioral issues, to take the time to seek out professionals if they're going for grooming or type thing, that do have the ability and the skill and the business style, model, and personal goal and motivation to adapt and adjust to these dogs that need that extra special care. And like you said, they could start out at the red or the higher colors and then work their way. As we continue to work with the dog, they continue to change their colors, which is, I love that. That is such a great, so you can see them progress through.
Yeah.
Um, and it's interesting. I just wanted to get back to, you talked about an unregulated industry, and this is something,
Yeah.
of course, that I am in as well. And what's interesting that you said is that if people come back, now in your case, they would come back. In my case, obviously, the goal is to address the behavioral issues so that I
They
don't
don't
see
come
them,
back. Yeah.
but I do get referrals. And so that is, if people are hearing it and relating to it and hearing it through each other, and that's worldwide, not just, in my little home city,
Sure.
but they're hearing it from their vet or from other people. That's the interesting thing about regulating an unregulated industry. It's regulated simply by the people themselves. They have a lot of power. They have a lot of voice to say, yes, what this person is doing is needed. It's good. It's not just about grooming in that moment. It's about taking a holistic approach. And that's what I really think is a big part of animal welfare, has become a big part, is taking that holistic approach,
Yeah, for
which is
sure.
a lot of, I would say it's a word we haven't mentioned yet today, but I think it's a really, really interesting way to view animal welfare.
Yeah. Yeah, I
And
think animal welfare is probably at the top of the umbrella for everything that we're addressing here. We just
yeah,
happen to be speaking about companion animals, and it's, animal welfare for companion animals, really. And yeah,
and it has a lot to do with the people. So,
yeah,
speaking of that, do you have stories that you want to share, or examples that connect your pet parents with your clients, with the animals, and just specifically on what,
yeah.
you know,
I mean, you know, it's kind of funny because the whole I have examples. It's just every day. And
yeah.
so it's nice to be able to say that it's like an everyday occurrence. That magic is not lost on me. It's a gift. Like you said, people can, if you hope that people don't come back to you. I do hope that people come back to me. I don't hope for the issues and problems that they have to unfortunately encounter on their way, on their journey to finding me. Some people come because of, the referrals, and they heard that, we do all this stuff, and they've got a dog or a cat that, it's unfortunate. It's a story over and over and over again. We got kicked out. We were told not to come back again. My pet, my dog, my cat was traumatized. They were hurt. They want me to sedate my dog or cat. And if I don't pay them $500 to do that, and I don't want to
I hear
sedate
that too.
them,
I
yeah,
hear a
all the
lot of that.
time.
Yeah,
And
yeah.
so those are the stories that we hear. And then we're like, no, I'm not. We always say, no, I'm not going to, put a muzzle on them. And no, no, we don't sedate. We don't do that. In fact, I don't advocate for that. So bring them in without their medication. We're going to see how they do, because most often with us, they do really well because of all of these reasons. And I talk to them about, I set the expectations. We're not whatever you know of out there. We're not that. We are not like any other grooming shop, facility, pet spa, whatever that may be. There are others out there like us, but unfortunately, far and few between. We communicate with the animals. The priority of the pet is number one, and so we do experience this over and over again. People come to us from long distances. They don't just come from our neighboring towns in New Jersey. They come from New York. They move out of state. They come from Delaware and New England and other, further out corners of the state. So that
So,
sort of thing these are the recurring occurrences that we experience every day in our business, because
it's almost, sorry, I just want to go back to when you're talking about these other grooming salons. There is a point too. Maybe that's just not who they're intending to attract, and
yeah,
whether with an unregulated industry, um, if they're transparent and say, it's sort of like a human salon. Some places are full
yeah,
salon, and some is a quick stop barber shop.
That's right.
you know, and they say what they are and what they do, and
Exactly.
that can be suitable to a lot of people and to a lot of pets. Um, but I think the idea that when you said it's not as common as it should be, and again, that's the same with my industry, where your basic puppy training classes and your basic, you know, positive reinforcement, it's kind of everywhere, used everywhere, but to really uh, find people that have that ability to work with the really challenging dogs
Right.
um, can be few and far between based on the knowledge. So really, it's a matter of what you did on your own, getting back to the very beginning when you started saying that you took certifications and weekend courses. You, like myself, went on your own to expand and grow your knowledge. It's not so much that the other ones are maybe not doing so well, or as it's just they almost sealing themselves there. That's what they do, it's all they're meant to do, and it's what they do, and they just sealing themselves there. Whereas in an unregulated industry, you as a person, as a professional, as a social entrepreneur, you can continue to grow and learn and develop and bring what you know into your own profession.
Yes. Yeah. That was my choice. And I just created it, in my mind's eye and followed my heart and did it the way I would have wanted it done for my own babies. And
Yeah.
so by way of doing that, the people just kept coming. And
Right. And so then that we can move into, my dog's chasing a fly. um, Move into profit
right,
versus passion. And can
sure.
those be mixed? And so where I was going with that on that little roll there was just maybe there's also a difference in the business model in general and the goal of the business. So maybe some of those would have a large number of employees and a large bit, you know, there's just lots of dogs coming through, but those dogs are just your average pet, no real issues or behavioral issues, and they just come in and lots of groomers. Whereas a business model is allowed to make money. A passionpreneur is allowed to make money, and we're allowed to. It's just perhaps different than the way other businesses that come across as being the same. Yes, essentially groomer and groomer, but really they're quite different businesses. The business model is different, where they come from is different, the goal is different.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, the animals, I would say, we get all kinds. I do see the majority are those with unique, specialized requirements. And your regular run-of-the-mill grooming shop, they get pets, animals, dogs, cats without issues, but they do get animals that do have issues. And that's where the challenges come into play. And that's where you usually hear these stories in social media and, things happening and they're not prepared to handle it. And so I think if,
It'd be
until,
nice if they referred, if
yeah,
they can't
they,
do it
they do,
themselves, if they
they
just
do.
referred. Yeah,
Yeah. And, people have to also advocate for their animals. So for me, it was always simple.
good
I was
point.
motivated by my love for animals, and it was more of a calling than a career. And so, you know, people need to figure out what kind of business they want to be and how
Yeah,
do they run their business. Is it just a small business to them, or is it, that they want to do, they have a higher calling for something, their higher consciousness is speaking to them. I think nowadays that is happening for more people. They're having to make changes and the world is shifting. People's perspectives on things are changing and shifting. What they want to
yeah.
do is changing and shifting, which is a wonderful, beautiful thing. And, for me, I strive for peace, comfort, happiness in my life. Like I think most people do. Some people don't realize it, but everybody has to figure out what's important to them. And for me, I want those same things for my children. I want those same things for my animals, my companion animals, and for the companion animals that I'm caring for. And that gets at the foundation of my business model. And so I think some people
Love
go
that.
into business and don't even think about, what is my business model? Do I have a mission? And big businesses do, but big businesses, it's always, profits at the top. And so
Yeah.
we can be conscious capitalists. It's a great thing. It's a beautiful thing. We can make money and we can still have a moral compass. Why not? It works. I can tell
Yes,
you, it's been working for me.
it
And
does.
people are so grateful, and I'm grateful to them that I can do this. I'm grateful to the animals that I can do this for them and that I can be there for them. I just wish, which is why we're here today, that it was more prevalent and more
Yeah.
just kind of an ongoing thing, and they didn't have to I'm I don't want to be a needle in a haystack. I want there to be more of this everywhere.
Yeah.
And yeah.
Yeah, and I think that's why you and I connect, because what we do should not be considered over here or for the elite or
Right.
something different. It should be an option that
Right.
is doesn't require people to get to the breaking point and to have bad experiences
Yeah.
with other groomers or other trainers, or just on their own, or struggling or trying to find what they need. It shouldn't be so challenging. And then
Right.
additionally, should people who are passionpreneurs and social entrepreneurs be considered separate from animal welfare? And just, we have these professions. How does it fit into animal welfare? So I think it's important for that the industry, whatever and it's so funny saying the industry, because the industry is kind of, we are it. We are,
Yeah.
there is no guiding industry. There's no one that says, yes, this is now,
Right.
Reiki is now part of animal welfare.
Right.
It's you're doing that. That's what you're making it and what it is. And being able to incorporate that in with your podcast and your business. And we'd love to see a book from you. I don't know if you have that on the go, but
Love to.
um
My timing is my only, it's my greatest foe. I hate to say
yeah,
it.
everybody's, that's part
Yeah.
of social entrepreneurship, right? As an
Yeah.
entrepreneur, we're
Yeah.
always,
It's on the list.
always, it's on the list. That's great. Yes, and so I think we've covered a lot, but the one I do want to just touch on, um, if you can share with us maybe your biggest challenge with being in an unregulated industry where you're a compassionate social entrepreneur, um, whether that was a specific moment in your journey or whether it's overall emotional.
The biggest challenge in being in this industry that's unregulated, I'd say just the fact that it feels chaotic, and it feels, from standing back and looking at it, like I've created this peaceful, place of serenity for the animals that can come to me, and even for myself. I don't want to work in a place that is dirty and smelly and not sanitary, and there's no safety for the animals, because then I feel unsafe, and I don't want that for me. I don't want that for them. And so I've created this little, corner of
Sanctuary.
sanctuary in my world. But what is out there? What's going on out there in the world?
It
And
is
so,
nuts.
yeah, and as an empath, I'm specifically an animal and earth empath, which is why I'm so deeply connected to what's going on in the world right now, which is part of why I had to start all of this and do this podcast, this volunteer endeavor, which is so deeply meaningful to me. I don't have a choice. It's like it's a mission, and it's part of my my duty, frankly. And so when I come in contact with new people who come in and they, they call or they show up and they tell these very sad stories about, they don't know what to do for their baby, their beloved companion, their dog or their cat who got hurt at the, because of this, or is traumatized because of that. And it's not just in these other facilities, but it's that they adopted them that way, or they even purchased them for a lot of money, and they had all of these inherent problems that they knew nothing about, but because the dog came from a puppy mill and grew up with all of this patterned trauma. And they're like,
Yep.
I hear that story a lot too. I don't understand it. I've had my baby since they were 8 weeks old. Why do they, everything is a fight for them? They, is everything's fear-based aggression, or, whatever the case may be. They're afraid of everything and I can't touch them. And so they can't get groomed and nobody wants to, and the stories go on and on and on. And so,
Mm-hmm.
either they come straight to me or they went somewhere else. And because of the problems that this pet presents with, they get hurt or they get further traumatized because they don't do well in traditional grooming shop environments, they're just busy conveyor belt, businesses, get them in, get them out, get them in, get them out. And that's not how my business operates. You mentioned, like a person's hair salon. That is how my business operates. It's, by appointment only. And, I ask a lot of questions at the beginning of each appointment. And I always tell my pet parents, whether when they first call, whether you use us or you use someone else, please be curious, ask questions. You are your companion animal's best advocate.
Mm-hmm.
Without you, they have no voice. So ask questions, be curious, ask to take a tour of their facility, ask to know more about their staff. What are their skill sets? What's their experience? What kind of products are you using? And, so I'm asking lots of questions of the animal guardians, the humans that call in, and then I also advocate for their pets, their animals that I don't even know yet, and just say, ask questions, whether you come to us or not, because these things are important in an industry that's unaccountable because
Yeah.
it's unregulated. We have to
And
make it accountable.
yeah, and I think that is surprising to what I'm hearing on this challenge a little bit is you're challenged by the challenges that the pet parents are facing.
Yeah.
And I completely get that. It is so emotionally challenging on it, as you said, day to day, hour to hour
Yes.
basis to have these people come. It's a great, yes, of course, we're happy that they're coming to us. But then when they turn around and say, did this, why did these other people that I went to or the industry leaders not
Yeah.
know about this? Or
Right.
why did my
Oh,
vet
how can
or
they
the
ask me, how can
shopper
you do
arrest?
it? How come you can
Yeah,
do this and nobody else could? I'm like, and I have to explain to
they
them.
just exactly. And years ago for me, there was that little bit of, oh, how could she possibly? Now it's, yeah, she knows absolutely. So why doesn't everybody else? I mean, well, um, that is challenging on a day-to-day basis and leads us down lots of different roads. Like you said, time is an issue. So can we teach what we do? Can we bring it out there to the forefront? Do
Yeah.
we have that ability? And why are pet parents so challenged in finding this information? Having said that, some days it seems like every pet parent knows. It's like
Yeah.
we're successful. There's lots of passionpreneur that people say, oh, it's just a niche. Oh, it's small. Well, I don't know. I mean, some days it just feels like absolutely everybody knows that we're there and this is what we do. And um, so it is that emotional roller coaster of like you said, listening to our clients, listening to their needs and listening and
Yeah.
struggling when they struggle.
It's all about
Struggle.
empathy at the end of the day, having empathy for, yourself, to love yourself enough to, be doing what makes you feel good. And then when you feel good, you can then afford to make others feel good in whatever
Hmm,
it is that you're
that's
doing.
beautiful.
If you're not well balanced, and that was, I did have, prior to COVID, I started a pet, we're getting away from that term. It's more companion animal, but I did start an academy to teach, because people were coming to me as well and saying, hey, can you teach me what you know? And I was like, well, I'll think about it. Eventually I started an academy and I have a curriculum. And then during COVID, it went online. And a lot of it starts with the energy of the pet. And it starts with understanding how to love yourself, knowing how to take care of yourself and to be balanced mentally, emotionally, physically, energetically. All of these things matter, because when we get up in the morning, we want to feel good. We want to be able to, it's like going to work with children. If you don't have the capacity that day to have empathy for someone else, then you need to go home, go to the gym, go run, meditate, do something. If you're losing it during the middle of the day, you need to step away and know your breaking point, know that threshold. And so I teach a lot of that and talk about that, because it's hugely important in what we do, and to have that self-awareness, to be able to always do the right thing. It's not that we're always going to be perfect, but it's that we at least promise ourselves to show up our very best each and every time, whatever that is. And if we need to take a break, to be able to come back and show up our very best for those companion animals that depend on us. They're vulnerable, just like children are vulnerable, and so many other beings in this world, on this planet, are. We all have a duty to work together as one. And that's what I've come to learn over all these years, is that we are all one. And I work together with the companion animal, the pet parent, the groomer. And it's like, we combine our forces together and communicate together to advocate for the animal, so that we can do for them the best possible thing that they need. Everyone is different. Every single animal is different. So we always try to get at that and find out what their needs are that day. Because every time they come, it could be different, right? They get older,
Well,
they
you
start
are
the site. Yeah.
you're definitely making an impact, and you certainly are a leader and a go-getter in this large, complicated spectrum that we float around in and make our mark, and you are certainly doing that. And it's so wonderful to have you in this animal welfare spectrum, and also on the Solutionist Show. So
Thank you,
I
Billy.
really appreciate you sharing everything, and it can be an emotionally challenging deep dive when we start talking about it and getting into it, and as people can probably tell, it's not scripted. It is simply us talking about well, conversing and
Yeah,
sharing. And
for
I
sure.
really appreciate you doing that on All About Animals Radio and the Solutionist Show. And I look forward to staying in touch. Thank you so much, Erica.
Thank you so much, Billy. I appreciate it. Hope to see you again very soon.
We will. Take care. Bye
Take care.
bye.
Bye.